Okay. By introduction, my name is Titus Gofwan, a teacher teaching social studies and civic education with Nigerian Korean Model School JS section. The school is located in Piwe, Abuja, FCT. I'm giving a talk on social studies, history, and gender equality in education. Social studies, history, and gender education. Yeah, the topic is very, very essential in the sense that it addresses the major issues that affects man and his environment, either positively or negatively. Proper teaching of social studies, history, and then awareness on gender equality education can help in the acquisition of knowledge on this so that it will enhance progress and development in our society today, especially the developing countries. I would like to start by explaining what social studies as a subject is all about. It is a study of man and his in relationship with other men and his physical environment. It involves man's physical and social environment and how man influences his environment for his own benefit, especially through science and technology. We know the kind of society we are in now. Technology allows man to use his understanding to make nature serve his purpose. Social studies enable students to understand how the gifts of nature are processed to produce goods and services for serving the various needs of man. Now, I will give a brief scope of social studies. The scope of the coverage of social studies as a subject. This means the range at which a subject is being treated. Now, this social studies involves religion. It involves religion, and then economics, geography. It also involves history, psychology, political science, sociology, anthropology, and philosophy. I will give a brief about how social studies is integrated into these various subject fields of learning. In religion, religion deals with man's beliefs in the supernatural being called God or other gods. And so all over the world, all over the universe, there are a lot of people with different religion. And in the teaching of social studies, it helps students to learn how to love one another. It helps students to learn how to be harmonious, have harmonious relationship with one another. Because no any religion practices anything or teaches anything that is against the will of their religion. And so it is very good that this addresses the issue of love. It addresses the issues of harmony amongst people living in the society. Now, economics is also a field of study that can be integrated into the teaching of social studies. This is a branch of knowledge that concerns the production and distribution of goods and services, and then creation of wealth. Now, in teaching students on these topics, it helps the students to create and use wealth as they are advancing in life. And that will help them to be able to be self-reliant even when they don't have jobs with government as is being expected in most of the developing nations. Geography is another field of study that integrates the teaching of social studies. This examines the Earth's physical systems and human activities. It helps students to know how to respond to national disasters and why different occupations are carried out by different countries. If you go to America, the weather is different, and then you go to South Korea, the weather is different. The kind of things they produce there are different from what is obtainable in Nigeria. The topography differs, and that's why it's good for students to learn that also. Now, history is very important in the teaching of social studies. It deals with the past and present events of individuals and groups. Students learn lessons from the past in order to make well-informed decisions for the present and then guard against the future. It also helps students to understand their society, where they come from and where they are going to. I'm going to talk a little about history, so I don't need to explain much here. And in psychology, psychology deals with the human behavior and the scientific study of human mind and its function and his function. And so the teaching of social studies enhances students to learn about how human beings behave. You know, whether the behavior brings success and development or the behavior brings retardation and then it brings us down. Now, anthropology and sociology can be in one place as a field. This deals with customs and cultures of people. This helps students to avoid being ethnocentric. An ethnocentric student is that student that looks at his culture as the best and he looks down on other people's culture. That also helps solve the problem of racism. So it helps us to avoid misjudgment of people's different kinds of culture. And that helps students also to respect other people's cultures in spite of differences. Now, political science and government. Social studies also covers political science and government. This is the branch of knowledge that deals with systems of government, the analysis of political activity and behavior. It helps students to understand general principles on which government is carried out. And that really helps a lot, because when you teach students on how government carries out its activities, as they are coming home, they will appreciate what government is doing and also contribute their own culture. Now, I'll give a brief nature of social studies that compose the characteristics of social studies. It is integrated. It derives most of its concepts from other subjects, which deals with human beings and their environment, as I have just outlined. So the social studies is a subject that takes almost all its concepts from the various fields that I've just mentioned. Man's influence. Secondly, man's influence on environment. Social studies deals with how man influences his environment, and then as the environment also influences man. This helps the students to know how natural resources are processed to produce goods for serving the various needs of man. So in the teaching of social studies, you will learn about the environment, we learn about the resources that are gotten in the environment and how these resources helps to enhance the lives of people. Now, human relationships. Social studies also teach about the subject of human relations. The subject shows us how the various activities of man are interrelated, e.g. trading, and then farming, family life, politics, religions, beliefs, accommodating cultural diversity so that peace and progress will reign in the society. I will give an example with Nigeria, which is a multi-ethnic nation where you have over 400 to 600 different ethnic groups. They have to relate with one another in understanding and tolerance so that there will be progress. Now we have also practical. In social studies, there is an alternative solutions provide in terms of problems solving. We try to look at practical solutions to solving problems that are in the society. For example, solving common social problems like kidnapping, rape, religious crisis, HIV and AIDS, divorce, and many others. The students learn about those things, and they are practical issues that they are happening around, and it helps them to learn how to develop ways of solving these problems themselves. Now, investigative. Teaching of social studies is investigative. It encourages people to participate in learning. It guides students to investigate and find out answers to issues by themselves. It is also dynamic. The nature of social studies is dynamic. It's not static. It is changing every time. It changes from time to time. The goals of the subject, social studies, keep changing to suit the specific needs of a particular society. So as the society is advancing technologically, the goal of learning social studies also changes. The end result of teaching social studies is to educate the child in the basics of his or her own cultures, and by so doing, make him a better person in the socio-political life of the person. Now, what are the objectives of social studies? Number one is molding of character. The subject molds students' character, make them active and responsible members of the society. It teaches the values of integrity, transparency, honesty, sincerity, and then probity. Chastity, the issue of keeping themselves without immoral acts, and then other values that makes it useful for the society. Social studies also teach about respect for culture. The subject helps us to have a better understanding of cultures, customs, and traditions of others in order to promote cultural heritage. Another objective is cooperation and interdependence. It teaches about cooperation, spirit of tolerance, and interdependence to achieve national and international peace and development of goals that are supposed to be achieved so that the society will move forward. Another objective is that it promotes good citizenship. Social studies enable students to acquire knowledge, skills, attitudes that will help them become responsible citizens and are well informed and always ready to exhibit moral and civic virtues. They learn about voting as a form of political participation and how to exercise their civic rights as citizens of a nation. Social studies also help promote knowledge of the society and then the law. It gives the students knowledge about the society and then about the law that is contained in the constitution, which is supposed to be obeyed. It helps students to solve their problems and also teach students the laws of the land, and they need to obey these laws in order to make good leaders tomorrow. Respect for democracy and societal values. Students are taught to live in peace with one another, respect democratic tenets of the society in spite of religious and then ethnic or cultural barriers. And the knowledge of available resources in our nation is very important to teach the students. They get to know the natural resources that are available and how to harness these resources for the development of our nation. Now, development of positive thinking. Yes, in social studies, we teach the students positive thinking. The subject helps to develop a good sense of judgment and decision making, take part in public discussions and debates, and then take useful decisions and actions. Integration. Social studies exposes the students to the subjects as I have mentioned above. It helps integrate ideas from different disciplines to which is aimed at good decision making. Now, the last characteristics is the global view. Global view. Social studies teaches us to understand the world around us and see it as a global village. It exposes students to global issues such as global warming, terrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and the rest. They learn to address and then evaluate critical issues such as peace, conflict, poverty, and human rights. Social studies therefore refers to the study of how man lives in the society and what he does and how his life is affected by things and people, as well as social practices around him. It influences attitudes, acquisition of skills, solving societal problems, and then encourage participation in social and civic duties. develop a sense of responsibility, training on the need for peaceful coexistence, developing interdependence and tolerance. I want to give a brief about history. This means, because I've spoken about history, I would not want to talk more here. This means the study of past events, and particularly in human affairs, historical events, days of old, olden days, good old days, time gone by, yesterday's, antiquity. History has a purpose of creating a past so that it can be studied in the present and then reinterpreted for future generations. It helps us to understand change and how the society we live in came to be. It is not possible for a subject like history not to be taught. In fact, the acquisition of knowledge through investigation and research is done in history. History as a subject helps us to understand the past and predict the future, and how it helps us to create a purpose. The subject gives us a wide opportunity to get better understanding of our past experiences, to count on the great achievements of our leaders and avoid horrific mistakes. The study of history exposes the students to political, economic, and social lives of the people, their system of governance, harnessing the economic resources for the benefit of the people, and social interaction in commitment to impart positive values for positive development. The subject also studies religion, beliefs of individuals, and how these various religions fosters peace and harmony among the people. The importance, therefore, cannot be overemphasized. It teaches the teaching of social studies in our schools, especially in Nigerian educational system, should be made compulsory for all students from primary 1 to 6, and then junior secondary school, JS 1 to 3, and then SS 1 to 3. That will help our students to be able to know where we are coming from and where we are going to. This will help them to know the efforts of our leaders, their successes and failures, in order to correct instances for positive development. Now, gender equality. Education is a human right, and it is an essential tool for achieving the goals of equality, development, and peaceful existence. Education enables girls and boys, women and men to participate in social, economic, and political spheres of life, and its foundation for the development. It is a foundation for the development of a democratic society. Gender equality discusses on equal rights of humans, not minding the sex differences. It seeks to address the marginalization and denial of the girl child or women to enjoy certain privileges in the society, such as studying certain professional courses like medicine, engineering, football, participation in democratic dispensation, by not giving them a certain percentage in political affairs. Gender equality is achieved only when women and girls and boys have equal rights, life, prospects and opportunities, and the power to shape their own lives and contribute to the national development of our society today. The teaching and awareness on this can help the problem of not really accepting the girl child or the female child to participate in other things. Now, why do we have gender equality in education? Sustainable for sustainable development. We teach on ending discrimination towards women to provide equal opportunities for education and employment. Gender equality has been conclusively shown to stimulate economic growth, which is very crucial for developing countries. Now, finally, I will look at how to achieve gender equality. We should talk to women and girls. Talk to them and let the women and the girls use mobile phones. In some countries, they don't allow the women to make use of mobile phones, and they should be allowed to pursue any profession of their choice. And then they should stop child marriage, especially in developing countries, where a girl of 12, 13 will be married to an aged person. That should be stopped. And also stop sexual harassment and molestation, especially female genital mutilation, where the clitoris is being removed or reduced to the barest minimum, believing that when they do that, they will reduce sexual promiscuity, not knowing that they are causing more harm to the girl child. Make education gender sensitive, raise aspiration to girls and parents, empower mothers and women, women economically, proper value of women, recognize the women, and then respect them, respect the worth of the girl child, what they can do, and then encourage them to do that. Get women into power, political appointments, give it to them, elective offices, vote for them and let the women go there, and then into positions of public and both private sector. And then when these are implemented, it will go a long way in solving the challenge of gender inequality in our society today. Women participation in political and social economic affairs will surely enhance development in our nations today. This can only be achieved through proper teaching of our students in schools to gain education and create awareness on the importance of gender equality. In conclusion, the teaching of social studies, history, and creating awareness and education on gender equality in our schools will help students identify the basic roles and responsibilities and the need to work towards economic, political, social development in our society today, and that will really help us to foster development. Thank you very much.